Well, good evening, and thank you for coming. I'm Jill Fagerlin, and welcome to the second Faribault High School Distinguished Alumni Award, or as I call it, the High Flyers. Leave it to an elementary teacher to cut everything short, right? One of our charter members has come back to say a few words. She is, now listen to this list. I think you'll find her picture over on the way in the back. She is a freelance journalist, correspondent, and on-air talent for, listen to these networks, or letters of the alphabet: NBC, ABC, CNN, Fox Sports, ESPN, the Weather Channel, and the NBC affiliate CARE. Did I miss any? I'm sure there are more. Janelle is one busy lady. Please welcome back Janelle Klein.
Thank you, Joe. This event, now in its second year, came about entirely thanks to the inspiration and dedication of some outstanding people who are here tonight. They saw firsthand through their work in the Faribault school system that it's helping to develop some extraordinary people who are truly making a mark. For that, we thank Ellen Bisping, Jill Fagerlin, Sue Fearson, Cheryl Freund, and Barb Wordish. Let's give these fantastic leaders a round of applause. Thanks to you all. Whatever your career path and the accolades it may bring, there is something very special in coming home and in knowing who the people who first saw your potential and helped develop your talents are still cheering you on and celebrating your successes. Faribault alumni are doing great things all over the world in nearly every field, but can know, as evidenced in part by the High Flyer Award, they will always have the support and encouragement of the city and school they grew up in. The award is also a tribute to the teachers, administrators, coaches, and others in Faribault who have devoted their careers to its young people, to helping them see what's possible and giving them the foundation and faith they can do and be anything they want. Those of you here tonight who remember teaching or coaching or helping our award recipients in any way as students should know that through you, you too are commended. That lesson is also important to the kids who are still in our schools today. They can see Faribault graduates, including those being recognized here, and realize they walked the same halls, learned in the same classrooms, had the same hometown, and went on to do incredible things. Tonight, we will see for ourselves that Faribault Falcons can and do excel. So again, thank you to everyone who made tonight happen, and to our honorees, congratulations, and thank you for making Faribault so very proud.
Our first honoree is one, maybe I need to introduce him, Donald Buck Burkhardt-Smyer. Have we ever heard that name before? I have a quick story, and I want to know if this is true. Supposedly, somebody came to talk to you, and they said they wanted to talk to the Burkhardt's brothers, who they were, and they wanted to talk to all three of the bosses. And Buck says, "Well, I'm Hart's. Buck is out for lunch, and Meyer's gone for the day." Is that true? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So with that, I'd like to introduce Virgil Lures, who graduated with Buck, and he's going to introduce us.
Buck is going to be 94 next week, and I'm not that old. I did not graduate with Buck. Sorry, Jill. I nominated Buck because of the impact he has had on the lives of so many people. Buck has a gift of being able to bring into people's lives happiness and joy. He wins the hearts of young children quickly by encouraging their achievements in the arts, in athletics, and academics. His regular trips to nursing homes bring smiles and hope to many seniors that he calls on. He gives personal tours of Faribault, and he has brought many visitors and caused them to come back again and again to see other things in Faribault. He has given many laminated newspaper articles to young and old, and I have one for him this evening. And I'm just curious if any of you here have received a laminated newspaper article from Buck. Anybody here? There's a few hands going up. Yeah. When I stopped to get this at Modern Printers, no, not Modern Printers. What's the one on the corner there? Anyway, they said, Faribault, yeah. They said, Buck was just in and just picked up 3 of them for some people. So in closing and nominating Buck brings smiles, encouragement, and inspiration to people, wherever they might be. And through his compassion, he makes all of our lives better. Thank you, Buck.
When you get my age, you're lucky to be up here. I want to congratulate the other 5 recipients tonight. It's an honor and a privilege to be amongst that group. There's some great people here tonight. I have to recognize my family first, because somebody told me they forgot to last time and they got in trouble. I'll go around the first now. Andy, I'm going to have Andy stand up. Angie just graduated from Portland State about 2 years ago. She's got a double engineer degree, and she went up to the University of Minnesota here, and she got enrolled, and they put her in the PhD program, and Andy told me she's been working with water in her lab in Portland, Oregon. And when the University of Minnesota looked it over, they said, Andy, we're going to give you your own lab. And then Andy says to me, Grandpa, it's 7 floors under the ground. And I couldn't believe it, but I can see where they're building all those stadiums up there. They're running out of space. She talked me into coming up on a Sunday afternoon, and she showed me her lab. And it is a nice lab, and she's really working hard on water. I hope someday she discovers something. Okay, now. Next to Andy is her dad, Steve, and my daughter, Brenda. Brenda's a retired elementary teacher, 35 years. They called her back to work again this week. Then my next son there, Barry, he's an academic All-American basketball player. He came all the way from Portland, Oregon for this. So, and then next to Barry is my granddaughter Kayla and her husband Andy. And then I think I'm the only class here tonight that has brought their homecoming queen with them. I'd like to introduce Avis Larson Fredham. She was born and raised in Nearstrand and went to Faribault High School. And she lives in Minneapolis. She came down. Her son Mark brought her down tonight. I'd like to have her stand up and give her an applause. She's just as beautiful now as she was the homecoming queen. Now the guy standing behind me is my oldest son. The last time I gave a speech, he poked me in the rib and says, "You're done." So I got to be careful tonight here, because actually I got a sore rib. I grabbed a couple of them. I would like to thank the committee, these high flyers. I like the name High Flyers. It seems like it's got a little zip in it. I'd like to thank Jill, Cheryl, Barb, Ellie, and Sue. I think they've done a great job, and I think we should give them another round of applause. Now, I was born on Division Street. My mother and dad could not afford the hospital room. It was $7.50 a day at that time. But things turned out okay, I guess. Now, when I was going to grade school, the depression really hit our country. People may not remember that. That was in 1933 and 1934, and they were mighty, mighty tough years. They rationed our gasoline, they rationed our food, and people realized that even the banks were a little shaky. People didn't know if they could trust the bank. So times are really tough then. Then back in 1934, Carol Springmeyer's here tonight, and after her dad closed the Shaft Pierce Shoe Company that left 500 people unemployed in the city of Faribault. That was the biggest employer we had in Faribault. And that really hurt Faribault a lot to miss that big payroll coming in here. And someday, if you ever get a chance to see Carol Springmeyer Shaft's slides, you want to look at them there. She did an excellent job on that. Now, my high school days, it goes way back, you know. We were still playing our football games down in Tepetonka. And my senior year, I lettered in 4 sports. I lettered in basketball, football, golf, and baseball. Now they do not let you do that anymore because the schedules conflict in the baseball and the golf schedule. But anyway, Harvey Ring was our football coach, and we were playing down at Tepetonka, and we were playing against the Waseca Blue Jays, and Coach Ring had me go back and punt. Well, it was really windy and cold down there, and I went back to punt, and I hit it off the end of my toe, and it went 17 yards behind me. I did make a few good punts before that, but that's the only one people tell me about. We just finished with our 75th class reunion last year. I went to a couple of rest homes and picked up about 3 people. But we had a good time. I'm sorry to say we lost one before and one after the anniversary. So you just never know how fast we can go. And it was nice to have we had the homecoming queen and the homecoming king both at that reunion. That's very unusual. There was a whole 7 of us there. I just want to tell you a little bit about my Navy life. My brothers told me when after I got out of high school, the first thing I got was a little one of those draft cards from Uncle Sam. He said, "We want you." So my 2 brothers both went in ahead of me, and they said, "Now, when you go in the Navy, if you want to get in the Navy, you better stand in the back of the line." So I got up to Fort Snelling to get sworn in, and there were 7 of us there being sworn in. So I got to the back row. And the front 2 guys had to go in the Marines, and I didn't want to go in the Marines because I knew that was a tough outfit. So I landed in the Navy and was very happy, and they looked over my resume a little bit, and they put me in with shoes. And then I worked with Dr. Sandberg on orthotics and correction on shoes, and you know, I've been doing that since the day I've been born. I was in Shaft Pierce Shoe Company when I was 3.5 years old, and I go to Red Wing Shoe Factory now every week of my life. I usually go over there on Thursday. I love the smell of leather. But the stinky feet, I gotta make a living. I gotta make a living somehow. Okay. After us 3 brothers got out of service, my dad had a home out by Canna Lake, and he called us 3 brothers out there. We sat around the table with my mother, my father, and us 3 brothers. And Dad said to us, well, my dad started a shoe repair shop called Ferdy's Shoe Repair. That was before we went into the Navy, so they were working there. And then when we went in the Navy and came back, well, Dad said, you guys will all be looking for a job. And he said to us, do you want to start a family shoe store? Well, we all looked at each other and we decided we'd give it a try. So the next day my dad went down in 1949 and formed a corporation with just 5 of us. And as I stand here today, I'm the only one left from the corporation. It's 68 years ago, and I'm still down the store once in a while. But I got married to Delilah, was a parochial teacher for over 30 years. Her and Hub Claytor graduated. retired together 30-some years ago. And I got to tell you a little story. Then after she retired, the neighbor lady came over to her and says, well, why don't you come up and teach at the prison? Because we need a math teacher. And my wife thought about, a lot of difference between a prison and a parochial school. But she went up and observed. And, it's such a difference teaching at the prison. One nice thing, she said, you don't have to stand in front of the classroom. You're one-on-one on a cubicle. You teach one prisoner at a time. Well, my wife she finished with teaching this one student for an hour, and she says, you follow me now, I want to take you to your next classroom. Well, on the way to the next classroom, they had waxed the floors. And my wife was quite a fast walker. I had a very hard time keeping up with her. But anyway, she slipped on that waxed floor. She hit her head on the doorway, and she was laying there with her eyes closed. And when she opened her eyes, she saw 6 prisoners standing above her. And guess what they said to her? Sue the state. They didn't ask her. They didn't ask her, well, how are you? But a guard came along and took her over to the ER room. She turned out okay. Okay. And, I was supposed to give a speech to one of the service clubs, and I had my speech written out, and I laid it on my desk. And so the next day I came home and I picked up my speech and I put it in my pocket and went down to give the speech, and there was red marks all over it. My wife saw it laying there. You never want to lay a speech down in front of a teacher. But she corrected it for me. But I've been known for a passion to go to rest homes, and I took care of my mother for 5 years. She was 108 years old, and I spent the last 5 years, and I put her to bed every night, and I'm glad I did it. I'm not sorry for it. And then my wife, 65 years of marriage, she got Alzheimer's, and I did the same thing for her. Well, I found out I spent 10 years in a nursing home, and I kept going up there every night. And when you look around and go to those rooms, you find some mighty lonesome people. So here it is. My wife's been dead 8 years now, and I still go back and see people. I was up there last night, went to see a lady who just had cancer. They told her they gave her a year to live. Well, she's up there. She had 3 quilts on the floor making quilts. So some people just never give up. It's those kind of people you love to visit. And what I do when I go up, I usually bring a little bag of grapes or maybe a banana. Anybody in a nursing home, when they sit in that room for 24 hours a day, it gets mighty lonesome. And sometimes if you just stop and speak to them for 5 minutes, it means a lot to them. And so that's what I've been trying to do for the last 8 years, and I enjoy every minute of that. And then I have people come in the store, and once I wait on them, if I've finished and if I have time, if nobody else is waiting for me, I'll offer them a tour of Faribault. First I'll run them by the Faribault High School, which is a beautiful school. Then we go by the junior high, which is beautiful. And it's nice to see those soccer fields out there with family names on it and donations. And then I drive from there, I go up to the blind school. And when I go to the blind school, they have they have a yellow fence in the front and a yellow fence up in front, forward, and it's 100-yard distance. And they have wires from one post to the other. Now, people don't realize what it is being blind. But kids from Iowa, state of Iowa that are blind, the kids from Wisconsin come over to Faribault and they run a race and they hold on to that wire. When we have our eyesight, we don't thank the Lord enough for what we got. And then I go through Brother Koopmans. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but he's got a beautiful yard. And Cac and Roger work very hard on it, and I take a lot of tours through their yard. They never know when I'm coming or going. But they've been very, very gracious about letting people look at their yard, and it's a beautiful yard. I think some years they have over 1,500 people go through that yard. And a lot of people in Faribault don't even realize how pretty it is. And after that, I take off for the blind and go through the blind. Then I go through the deaf school. Then I go to Shattuck. One thing I like about Shattuck, we've got that church up there. There's only one other church like that in the United States where the pews do not face the altar. And people really look, and they're very excited about that. Then I tell them about Marla Branda, how he got kicked out of school up there. He got demerits. He set 3 alarm clocks underneath where the preacher knelt down to pray, and alarm clocks went off just as he started to pray. Another thing, what he did, he crawled up on top of the clock and got the ding out of the clock. He got demerits for all of those. Brian hasn't poked me yet, but I think my time is up. I would like to thank you all for coming, and God bless you all.
When I read Larry's nomination form, he's our second gentleman here, I was overwhelmed by the vocabulary. I mean, I had no idea what I was reading, really. And it's definitely humbling, let me tell you. When I spoke with Kathy, his wife, she told me she had typed his thesis. Is this true? Nod, let me know if it's true.
I typed it so that the professional typist could read it.
Ah, okay. You mean they don't print neatly, huh? No. Well, one of the words she said had 26 letters in it. Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, Larry loved research, and he even went so far as to make the equipment to do his research. And Pat Umbright was introduced to Larry by his wife, Kathy, and now it's Pat's turn to introduce Larry to us.
I'm excited to be here tonight. I am honored to be here tonight to introduce Larry Charbonneau to all of you. Larry was a member of Faribault High School class of 1957. I never met Larry, but I got to know him through his wife, Kathy. Kathy and I were on the auxiliary board of directors for District 1 Hospital. As we got to know each other, I heard about Larry's many accomplishments. I was truly impressed. A year ago, Larry lost his battle with cancer. It was shortly after last year's Outstanding Alumni's first awards event. I was reading Larry's obituary in the paper, and I said to my husband, Chuck, I didn't know that Larry graduated from Faribault High School, and that put a seed in my mind. And I thought, Outstanding Alumni Award. Yes. I contacted Kathy, and we decided that Larry would be nominated and eventually selected as one of the 2018 Distinguished Alumni Award winners. I am happy to introduce to you Larry's wife, Kathy, his daughter, Angela Martin, his son, Mark Charbonneau, and his grandson, Jake Charbonneau, who happened to be born on his grandpa's birthday. I just want to come up.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Charbonneau, and I'm the proud son of Larry Charbonneau. And on behalf of my mother, Kathy, my son, Jake, my sister, Angie, and her husband, Mike, and their sons, Michael and Daniel Martin, I would like to thank Faribault High School for bestowing this great honor upon my father. I would also like to congratulate the other honorees we are celebrating tonight. My father was an extremely successful research chemist who developed materials that are found in many of the clothes we wear and the products we use every single day. A large percentage of our computers and cell phones depend on the component materials that were developed by my father. My father also developed materials that continue to help defend our great country. As successful as my father was professionally, this paled in comparison to Larry Charbonneau, the man. He was a kind, considerate, and loving man who was dedicated to his family. Faith, family, education, character, and modesty defined him in his lifetime. And these institutions and values continue to live in his memory. I would like to thank the Gillen family for joining us tonight. My Uncle Arnie, Larry's sister, and my Aunt Sharon, my cousins Denise and Jim, and Jim's wife Laura. And thank you to all the many wonderful friends who have honored my father by being here tonight. Finally, I leave you with this thought. My father traveled all over the world and all over this great country. Yet he chose to come back to live in Faribault, the community that meant so much to him. Although he shied away from recognition, I know that this is an honor he would greatly treasure. Thank you, and God bless you.
Carol Thomas states, I owe my success to my conservative upbringing. She attended Faribault Public Schools where she said she learned the importance of respect and community. To introduce Carol Thomas to us, we are asking Joan Rux to come up and do the honors for us.
Hello. Carol Thomas is really very deserving of this Alumni Award for what she's accomplished in her nursing career. Being the first female general in the Nevada Air Guard was one of the accomplishments. But being a female general makes it hard for some people to believe that's actually true. Because we think of a general like General MacArthur or General Eisenhower, or like a man that's got a very imposing persona about them. Well, a few years ago, we were on a girls' vacation to Colorado. And we were riding the train up to Pikes Peak, and we were talking to the gentleman sitting next to us. And somehow the conversation got around to the fact that Carol was a general. And he said, "No, you're not." And we went, "Yes, she's a general." And I don't think we ever did convince him that she was actually a general. She may have even gotten out her ID that said general on it, but I don't think he believed it. And on that same trip, we went to the Air Force Academy and stayed overnight. And because she was the general, there were a lot of perks that the generals got. Everybody salutes them. So it's really a good thing to be a general. Carol and our parents were friends even before we were born. So I've known Carol all my life. We went to part of grade school together, high school and college together, and we graduated in the same class in 1966 from Faribault and in 1970 from Augustana College. Yeah. So I'm very honored to have nominated Carol for this award. And so now I present to you Brigadier General Carol Thomas.
Thank you, Jan. I appreciate it. You're a lifelong friend, as our parents were. So it's a real honor to be here tonight with you. Those are great stories. I don't even remember that trip, But I get that all the time, You're not really the general. I mean, people say, and what did your husband do? What squadron is your husband in? And, it really is, I was in the military. Little did I'd like to acknowledge my family here, too, before we get to, well, first of all, I want to thank the committee for nominating me and selecting me for this honor. And I'd like to introduce my sister-in-law, Lois Lukey, and Fran Carl, that are here with me tonight. Little did I think when I joined the Air Force right out of college as a brand new nurse that I would, make a career of the Air Force or even attain the rank of Brigadier General. I was young and naive and knew I wanted to do something different with my life. I wanted to travel and explore the world. Vietnam was going on at the time, and I had a really strong sense of patriotism. My dad was a World War II vet, and I really felt like I wanted to do something for my country. So, as corny as it sounded, I really believed in Mother, American apple pie, and the American flag. Something that is kind of not in vogue anymore these days. I believed, I was enthralled with the idea of flying, so it was going to be the Air Force for me or nothing. So after driving my recruiter kind of crazy for about a year, I finally took the commitment and found myself at my first duty station at Fairchild Air Force Base. As a brand new nurse, a second lieutenant with a little bit of knowledge and authority, no experience, and a lot of responsibility. Through the years, I continued to stay in the Air Force. I joined the Air Force Reserve, then as a flight nurse, and finally ended up in the Nevada Air National Guard. There were a lot of sacrifices and commitments through my 27 years of service. It was difficult balancing my family life, my civilian career, fulfilling military requirements, and raising my 2 daughters, and deploying worldwide. But there were so many exciting and rewarding experiences, too. Some of the most professional, wonderful people I ever met were in the military. So it was a real privilege and honor to serve. I'm so grateful for my conservative religious upbringing and values and education from Faribault, from family and friends and mentors. Faribault was a great place to grow up, and despite the brutal winters, and it'll always be home to me. So thank you again, everybody, for the honor of being here tonight, and I hope I can be a role model to young women in the future.
Well, we sent one out to Al, Dr. Markman. And he called to inform me that he had sent his picture, but he was a little concerned about the form he filled out. He said, "Can you read it?" Doctors don't have the best, and I'm quoting this from him, doctors don't have the best penmanship. And while one of our committee members wrote the profile, she'll remain unidentified, but she did say she had to blow up the information so she could read it out. So Al's brother, Todd Markman, is here to introduce Dr. Alan Markman.
It is truly an honor and a pleasure to introduce my brother, Dr. Al Markman. And I just want to point out tonight to my other brothers that are here tonight that the selection committee, along with me, selected myself as the best looking Markman brother to make this introduction. So let me give you just a little background on our family. Al is the second of the 4 boys in our family, and there were no sisters. We came as 2 distinct pairs. So there was Mike and Al. They were the 2 oldest. Mike being 3 years older than Al. Then the second pair, Scotty and me. And we were 6 and 7 years younger than Al, 9 and 10 years younger than Mike. So you ask, well, why is that important? I said, remember, there's no sisters in the family. Well, Scott and I grew up idolizing our older brothers, who were great athletes, and we're very proud of them. And as self-proclaimed sportsaholics, at that age, being young kids, being good at sports, well, that's all that mattered. When Al was in high school, I was a 3rd, 4th, 5th grader. He was so cool. Al was the best. He was captain and star of the footbal team, played varsity basketball and baseball, ran track. He was recruited to play major college football. He was the best. But come to find out, not only was he the best football player and athlete, he was also smart. Really smart. So smart, he was his class valedictorian. He was accepted to Dartmouth College, an Ivy League school, but he was also accepted at Yale and Cornell, and he chose Dartmouth because of its strong football program. He didn't just pass his college biochem class, he got a perfect score on his final exam. And then medical school. Who ever heard of getting accepted to 6 medical schools? The most difficult part, where do you go? Dartmouth, Johns Hopkins, Mayo, Yale, Minnesota? No, Michigan. Tonight we can all read the great achievements about Al and his professional life as an orthopedic surgeon specializing in sports medicine. But like Paul Harvey, I'm here to tell you the rest of the story. Page 2. How Al ever ended up being a doctor, I don't know. As a kid, this just didn't fit. He was much better qualified to be an NHL linesman. You know, the big guy on the ice who breaks up the fights and separates players who really don't like each other. He broke up so many fights between Scotty and me. I guess he's probably overqualified to be an NHL referee. But the real story about my big brother, beyond his athletic and academic accomplishments and his surgical skills, is who he is as a person. He is a wonderful brother, outstanding friend, a great husband and father, a genuine great guy. His skill as a surgeon is only surpassed by his ability to counsel his patients with impeccable bedside manner. He is more of a friend to his patients than their doctor. Yes, Al is smart, an outstanding athlete, and a great surgeon. But to all of us, he is a friend, a father, a husband, an uncle, and to me, well, he's my brother, and I love him. Please welcome Al Markman, Faribault High School Distinguished Alumni, Dr. Alan Markman.
And after that introduction, yeah, the check's in the mail for that baby. It's coming. It's coming. That'll be good. One thing I'd like to say to Buck is that thanks for the memories about football in particular. Made me feel good that my one and only place kicking event when I was in college, which happened because our 2 place kickers had gone down to injury during the same game, and the coach had actually seen me just dicking around in flag practice kicking the football, that he thought, Mark, when you're in, kick off, let's go. So I'm thinking, really? It went 5 yards, baby. 5. And it had some serious spin on it, and it spun out of bounds and landed right in front of the head coach. It's like, you're done. That was the end of my football kicking career. But it did earn me on my class composite for my fraternity for the next year. I had nothing to do with it, but I'm forever now known on that year's composite as the toe. So you know how all that stuff goes. It just goes around and around and around. For those of you who are us oldsters, I appreciate everybody that's got notes. This is yesteryear's teleprompter. And so it's going to be paper. That's the way it is. The good news is if I, get off subject from the teleprompter, my wife says it's no problem. You BS everybody anyway. So just keep talking. So if I lose my place, I lose my place. So I'm really honored and humbled to receive this award. I applaud the committee for their work and dedication to this fledgling program here at the high school. My hope is that this type of endeavor will help to foster a sense of empowerment in the students here in Faribault to embrace the future and to strive towards excellence in whatever their career choices may be. I am pleased tonight to have much of my family in the audience. And I'd like to say thank you to them for their support through the years. It's been great. First of all, my lovely wife and bride of nearly 35 years, not quite there, but getting close, Wendy. She's been great. She's basically been my beacon of light and support for all of these years. So that's great. I've got my older brother, Mike, who was mentioned. And he and I spent 2 years together at the University of Michigan. He was in the School of Public Policy, earning a postgraduate degree while I was in the medical school. And it was his suggestion that I come to Michigan with him so we could play rugby together, so that was good too. So that worked out really well. So kudos. Mike's here with his wife, Ann. My younger brothers are both here, who most of you know, right, wrong, or otherwise, Scott and Todd, along with their wives, Lori and Lori Jo. My son, David, is faithfully in the back corner with his beautiful bride, Carrie, and my one and only grandson, as of this date, Watson, who's right on the edge of losing it, so they're going to scoot out really quickly. But thank them for coming. That's great. Appreciate that. My daughter, Whitney, is here with her husband, John. And I also have my nieces, Maria and Samantha. And then got a little almost family too, because the in-laws, outlaws, the rest of the clan is there on Todd's side of the family too. He must have paid him some money to show up, but so Ike and Ruth are here too, so we appreciate that very much. I would also like to congratulate my fellow recipients on the panel from tonight. It's a great group. It's wonderful to be associated with people who've really done well, and all I can say is well done. Well deserved. Thank you for all of your hard work in the past. I've occasionally reflected back on my journey through life and wondered, how in the heck did I get here? Certainly we all experience twists and turns along with successes and failures, but for me, I think a few constants and traits helped to shape my career. I would list dreams, resiliency, passion, attitude, and responsibility as being the framework for me. First of all, I followed a dream. My early readings about educational choices led me to the pursuit of the dream of an Ivy League education. This was to be the stepping stone to a career in medicine. Taking this step actually required resiliency, the ability to pursue work in an industry that at that time was unfortunately unable to save my mom from an early death. But this also allowed me, see that? Teleprompter goofed. There we go. This allowed me to bounce back and rise above the devastation of that terrible moment in time to the realization that medicine treats not only the patient, but the surrounding family and support structure of the patient. Passion, in my opinion, is the fuel needed to stride forward to realize your dreams. Hard work and dedication to daunting tasks for success are more easily endured with a passion for your chosen activities, be it on the athletic fields, in the classrooms and libraries, behind the desks, in front of the computers, in the performance studios, or wherever your choices carry you. Sports participation certainly was a constant driver for me. Echoes from the playing fields still are passionate drivers for me. I hear them in my head on a regular basis. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in my head, but that's okay. A positive attitude each and every day gave me no fear to approach successes. I never really considered the possibility of failure. Every goal was achievable in my mind. I simply refused to think that I couldn't make it. It just wasn't going to be an option. As more successes came to me, the feeling of responsibility began to grow. Much time and effort on the part of many people in my life helped me to climb to success. The need to give back to others, to pass it on as it were, became stronger. I agreed to become active in our teaching and mentoring programs, taught med students, ortho residents, sports medicine fellows, athletic trainers, physician's assistants, as well as numerous students at levels lower to that to try and encourage them towards an occupation in medicine if they so desired. And I volunteered as team physician for multiple events and teams, most notably my work at Gustavus. Through all of this, through all of the increased activity, I know I became a better surgeon. God gave me many gifts, possibly most notably intelligence and athletic ability, and I hope I have used them wisely. When I was a student at Faribault High, 2 faculty members specifically touched my life. I want to say thank you to Coach Ted Thompson, my head football coach. He gave me an opportunity to succeed with my football career by reaching out to me as soon as I moved to Faribault in the early summer of my sophomore season. He responded to a call from my previous coaches in Blue Earth and took the time to integrate me into the varsity captain's summer training program at that time. This allowed me opportunity to begin to establish my niche with the football program. He also happened to rescue me from the 7th-hour typing class that I was assigned to on the first day of classes. And he said, I'll take care of this, but you belong in the football field because that's when we practice. We take 7th hour off when we get out there. I was just learning positions and the E. I was after that E all this time, and all of a sudden I'm out in the football field. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you, Ted. And I also want to say thank you to Mr. Harvey Schultz, who happens to be here today in the audience. And we didn't plan this, Harvey, really. Where did he say that? Oh, there he is, back up there. You might not believe that, but, it's true. Harvey was one of my football coaches, as well as coaching in track. But more importantly, he was my math teacher. Given my interest in math and science, I had been given some opportunities to accelerate my learning, both in Blue Earth and then here in Faribault. This led to a chance for an independent study program with Mr. Schultz in my senior year. His foresight and tutelage gave me advanced learning experiences with computer language and programming. He introduced me to the platform of the day, basic language, a forerunner of the next step in binary calculation, Fortran. As it turned out, unbeknownst to me at that time, the then president of Dartmouth College, Mr. John Kemeny, was the inventor of basic language. So when I got to campus, I was able to integrate into those systems early and often. So thank you very much, Harvey. A lot of paper, ain't it? Who's up? Todd, can you come collate this for me? Oh, here we go. Again, in conclusion, thanks to all the community for all their very hard work and all that you do to benefit the students of Faribault High. May your efforts be blessed and fruitful. Thank you all for your attendance.
Ann Michaels is our next inductee. If you haven't seen Ann Michaels in a performance, put that on your bucket list. I heard a rumor she's going to be in Mamma Mia, so look out. I'm not even sure where. Ann Roach Stigmeyer is here to introduce her theatrical niece. Ann, are you ready?
It was an honor for me to enter Ann's name into consideration for this distinguished alumni award. She truly is a gifted young woman who has immersed herself in our Twin Cities area performing arts. She has worked really hard and has succeeded in every way. Anne is doing exactly what she loves to do for her life's work, and she will say that she thinks she's really lucky. I know she appreciates everyone in this community for their interest in her and for their support. And it really is wonderful when she looks out into an audience and sees familiar faces. All of us are really proud of her and her success. Our Annie was a high flyer in Mary Poppins, and now she's a high flyer with this award.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for letting me express my gratitude via this little video. Thanks to Troy Temple for putting it together for you. so that you can see it. And I think it's a great idea. I'm sorry I can't be there today. I would have loved to have been there. I have 2 shows on Saturdays at 2 o'clock and 7:30 with no understudies. So alas, you're stuck with me like this, my big face on the screen. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the committee who made this possible. Jill, who corresponded with me, made sure she had all the information she needed. And Sue Fearson, who I didn't have as a teacher in elementary school, although she was the teacher for high potential classes, which I just felt so honored to be a part of as a little kid. And then Ellen Bisbing and Cheryl Freund, both just the best English teachers people could hope for. I mean, I can stack them up against anybody, and they are at the top of the heap as far as teachers are concerned. And that just sort of leads me to why I feel so grateful. I am not here as a performer, a professional performer, alone. I did not get here on my own. There are a lot of qualities a person needs to have to be an actor. And one of the biggest ones is having a strong curiosity and the ability to learn. And that is something that I got in spades at Faribault with all the teachers. I need to continue to be a historian. I need to continue to learn languages, and I need to continue to be able to solve problems and learn about cultures, learn about psychology. You know, all of these things are extremely important to what I do when I'm learning to be a character in a play. Not to mention the vocal training that I had and the theatrical training that I had. Michael J. Hansen, God rest his soul, was just a remarkable human being who I can't say enough about, and it's just such a loss that he's not here with us anymore. But what a tremendous teacher, and he taught me to believe in myself really early on. And Randy Schaefer, who knew that we were a family without a lot of means, and he wanted to make sure I had the voice training that I needed, so he took me to his teacher in Bloomington just to see what she'd say, and ultimately ended up paying for voice lessons for me for a couple of years because he wanted me to have that training. And thank God that he did. I ended up staying with her for about 15 years, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. My athletic training has been instrumental in my success. I was a gymnast, which I think got me many jobs at Chanhassen Dinner Theaters based on the fact that I'm not afraid to be upside down and get thrown around. And when you're doing a show like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, it's sort of essential. But just teaching your body to respond in a way that it doesn't have to do in normal life. I mean, that's what I do every day of my life. So, as an actor. So I'm just really grateful for all my training across the board educationally. And Faribault really, I mean, I haven't been there in a while. I haven't been to the schools, but I'm going to assume that they have maintained the same level of professionalism, and the standards are still very high. All my teachers held the bar very high and asked me to jump over it, and I'm so grateful that they did. I'd like to thank my Aunt Anne Roach Stegmeyer for nominating me. She's just a person I've always admired and loved dearly. A strong example of a successful female in her own right, starting her own business with her friend Lorraine, their antique shop, and later Anne doing her estate sales and continuing to sell Shackley. Hit her up if you need anything. And just being a tremendous mother and homemaker and now grandmother. Thanks, Auntie Anne, for nominating me. And I'd like to thank my mother and my sister for always being there for me, keeping me humble. You are my rocks. And I couldn't do what I do without you either. So thank you to everybody. Congratulations to all the other winners. Have a blessed evening, and I hope to see all of you soon. Okay, bye.
Schultz, as you can see in her profile, is someone who has dedicated her life to the welfare of others. Meredith Johnson wants you to meet her high school friend, Martha Schultz. Meredith?
If I had family training in the auctioneer business, I need to slow down and not be super loud, so I probably wouldn't need this. But, good evening, I'm Meredith, and I am honored to be here tonight with all of you. About a year ago at this time, my parents attended the FHS Alumni Award reception, and afterwards my mom asked me, "Is there anyone from FHS that you thought deserved to be receiving this award?" And I thought, there is one person, and that's Martha. She is someone who is kind, caring, and generous. Whenever she sees a need in the community, she doesn't hesitate to create a solution for that. Helping others is her passion. She has always been willing to help those in need, and as you will see in a little bit, she does it with a smile. So with that, I'd like to introduce Martha.
Thank you so much, Meredith, and thank you so much for this award. It's really an honor. When I graduated from the Faribault High School over 15 years ago, I had dreams of traveling the world, meeting new people, experiencing new cultures, and learning new languages. I loved my experience at the Faribault High School. I was able to express my creativity and individualism in a safe and supported space. But as all 18-year-olds do, I envisioned myself working and living in a completely different place when I grew older. So after attending the U of M and graduating from college, I didn't exactly think I'd be back in Faribault and working in the same exact high school I graduated from 5 years earlier. I was walking down the same hallways, hearing Mr. Turtle and Mr. German over the same announcements, and smelling the same pizza and French fries from the cafeteria I had had not long ago. When I started my job in youth development for Faribault Community Ed, everything felt the same about the high school as when I had left 5 years earlier. Though this time I worked side by side with my former teachers who I had only known as elusive figures with no private lives when I was a high school student. But slowly I realized I wasn't working in the same school, or at least the one I thought I had gone to. Little by little I got to know my students and their stories. These students came into my office with experiences so different from mine, and with stories of overcoming adversity so troubling that I was in awe. How could a refugee from Ethiopia who slept outside in fear of hyenas when she was younger even have an interest in volunteering for our community? How could a student who lost both her parents in the war in Somalia even begin to think about studying the Pythagorean theorem in after-school homework help? But the truth was, the new students to Faribault I was meeting were beyond enthused to be there. They were so excited to be connected to Faribault's community, and they're enriching the lives of their peers and mine as we work together. Over time, these same students helped me create after-school programming that was appropriate for our changing student body and exciting for all students. I was invited to my students' homes, and I had the pleasure of meeting my students' parents, their siblings, and their extended families. I tried new food, I began to learn Somali, and I loved to immerse myself in multicultural experiences, like dancing at Somali weddings, dressed in Somali garb, at 2 o'clock in the morning in the middle of Faribault. While so many of these experiences were far away from what I was accustomed to, they were life-changing. At the same time, I learned how much in common I shared with these students and their families. It was so clear to see that teenagers are teenagers no matter where they are born and no matter what they have or they go through. To this day, I continue these friendships I made with our immigrant population. As I look back at my ambitions as an 18-year-old, I realize how naive I was. I did not need to travel beyond my hometown to fulfill my desires of meeting new people, learning new languages, and experiencing exciting cultures. I am proud of Faribault, and I'm proud of the fact that all students graduating this June will have had a high school experience even richer than mine was in many ways. They will have walked the halls of the high school hearing multiple languages. They'll have had the experience to work as part of a team with students who might not share their same upbringing, and they'll be more prepared to live in a global society. I can't wait to watch my former students receive this same award after they graduate college, attend graduate school, and excel in their fields. Thank you so much for this opportunity.